Hello and welcome to the Victory podcast with Adarsh and Adam. I'm Adarsh and with me is Adam, and we together in this podcast take you through all things cricket. In today's frame of discussion, we are going to discuss about the Pakistan England test that has just happened, and I'm going to just overview the test as it happened. Pakistan won by 152 runs, and it was a pitch which, as Mike Atherton summed up, it spinned on the seventh day. So, what did you think about it?
Yeah, that was really interesting. I mean, the toss was really crucial. Um, so it was a bad toss to lose. Obviously, Pakistan went in with three spinners. England went for two spinners plus Root, so they had less spinners than Pakistan. But it, the pitch looked fine until the last hour of the second day. So when England were batting, they were fine when Dockett was batting, Crawley, Pope, Root, and then it all went wrong, and it seemed to really kind of turn a lot more. One thing I would say, as crucial as the toss was, I think it did expose kind of England's frailties against spin, because I think not all of those deliveries were because of the pitch. And I think kind of some of those same questions need to be asked again about how how they approach an innings, the importance of the first innings runs, and also a kind of a nuance to their game. The wicket of Brook at first looked like, oh, the pitch has exploded. And then you look at it again, you think, oh, maybe that was just a poor shot, really. I think Root was a bit unlucky. The ball did turn and the pitch was difficult. But they're always going to struggle after conceding like a 70 odd run deficit. And then in the second innings, they they dropped a few chances. Which were crucial, really. I don't know if they would have chased like 210, 220 anyway, but it would have been much closer, and I think it would have put Pakistan under pressure. What about you?
Yeah, I think there was this thing of like we are playing on a spinning wicket, so we're not going to we accept a loss. I sensed something
Mm,
like that where at least in the second innings, you felt as if it just it was going one way and they didn't have
mm,
anything to come out of it, which you would expect from what they claim to be revolutionary. So you would expect some sort of
mm,
fourth innings effort to do something,
mm,
whereas nothing happened in that innings. And if I go through England's batting lineup, I
mm,
Duckett played well, and I saw a few people say that Duckett played a really good innings, and yeah, it was,
mm,
but uh, we have to give context to that innings because right
mm.
after his innings, the ball started spinning. So there
Yeah,
is
yeah,
so yeah, it was not as good as it might look at the end of the day, but it was really good still. Ben Stokes, I think he's one we need to chat on today because he averages
mm,
10 in Asia over the last
mm,
few years, and I
yeah,
just think that if he's going to retain his position, like we've not got to a stage where his position is in question, but you've
mm,
got to ask the question that where how does he fit into the England squad? Is he just a
mm,
specialist captain? Because as you
mm,
said to me earlier, I think he's not fielding in slip anymore. He does not
no,
bowl regularly, and
no,
he's quite frankly batting worse than what Jack Leach at this moment. So
yeah,
um, is he worth his place, like completely objectively?
yeah. That's it. That's a great question. I think you always think with him. You made a strong case there in terms of not fielding at snip anyway. He used to be a great snip fielder. He was a good outfielder too, but again, he's hampered by this finger injury he had, and also by his various hamstring injuries and knee injuries. He's fit. He's fit in terms of that he does a lot of work. He hasn't got any fat on him, but these are just injuries that are kind of long-term injuries that plague him, and he just doesn't bowl. He doesn't bowl the overs that an all-rounder would bowl. He bowls a bit more like a part-time, not the way he bowls, but the number of overs he bowls is like a part-timer. He did bowl a tiny bit more in the West Indies series in the summer, but that must have been really if you take the last 2 years, it's only really that West Indies series where he bowled a significant amount of overs. He hardly bowled any on the Pakistan tour at the end of 2022. Hardly bowled any in New Zealand at the start of 23. Hardly bowled any in the Ashes in 2023. Um, he bowled in the first two tests, I think, but not for that much. And then he didn't bowl in any of the last three tests. He didn't bowl at all in the 2023 World Cup. Uh, he bowled, I think, 2 or 3 overs in India in that five-test series in the last test, and then he bowled a bit against the West Indies, and then he got injured again. So his time as a bowler, really, I wonder if that's up. And with the batting, he just he hasn't scored 100 now in, I think, maybe 14, 15 months. Um, and I
Uh,
wonder, I mean, initially some of it was because he wanted to set the tone with Bazball and and to kind of lead the way i- in an attacking style, which was meant to be saying, forget about your average and just attack, take the game by the scruff of the neck. So he kind of sacrificed himself a bit early on in the Bazball era. But I think more recently, he just, like everyone, when you get to a certain age, when you're hampered by injury, you do decline. I think he definitely is in a decline, and that's exposed even more against spin in spinning conditions. I think he's still got some shots against fast bowlers. I know the West Indies side wasn't a particularly great one that toured, but the attack was decent. The two Josephs, Holder, Seals. Oh no, yeah, Holder, Seals, Roach didn't play, but that's a decent seam attack, and he played a few decent innings there. But he didn't get 100 or anything, but he got, I think, a couple of 50s. So I think maybe three 50s in the end. But he looked okay there, but he did get out to spin against the West Indies as well. So I think it's a real weakness for him. It didn't seem to be as much of a weakness previously. And as you say, in Asia in the last few years, it's really bad. He couldn't play Kuldeep at all, could he? I think he played okay in the first test in India. I think he got a 70, and after that, hardly anything. And here he really struggled, and even in the second innings, he made what, 37 or something. And it, there was a lot of kind of it's too strong a word to call it slogging, but he was just playing loads of shots, and in the end got stomped with his bat somewhere else. His bat was on the pitch somewhere, wasn't it, when he got stomped? He didn't
yeah,
have it in his hand,
yeah,
and so he was just playing that really attacking, um, kind of reckless way. By that time, the game was lost, but still. He yeah, I don't know if he can. I wonder with Stokes if he's almost now England have to be a bit cuter with him and maybe just utilize him. I see him like a phone with a low battery, and you can't be looking at kind of I don't know, stories about a cat going up a tree or something, or a monkey going on his keyboard or something when you've got to use it for like an emergency call or to text someone. And I think with Stokes maybe it's like they've just got to make sure he's in tip-top shape for India and Australia, and and maybe kind of, I don't know if you can kind of rest him, but say for instance if they were 2-0 up with a series with one left, don't play him in that last test. Um, I don't know how much say they have over him playing in certain franchise leagues, but he's under contract now for another couple of years, so they've really got to restrict that, and then maybe they can eke out a few great performances from him on that basis. And I'd say on a similar level, Mark Wood is like that as well, and Jofra Archer. You've got to kind of accept that these people are going to be injured a lot, and you just have to make sure the games they do play are the most important ones. I know that's easier said than done, but that would be my thinking. What about you?
yeah. Does that mean he does not get to sit and earn millions while drinking Red Bull in CSK? Huh.
I think
Yeah.
if he's just drinking Red Bull, he'll be safe. Um,
Yeah. So my view on this is, I don't know if you
yeah.
remember that ball he bowled to Rohit Sharma, right? Like the first ball he bowled after how many so months he bowled.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I was just watching, and that just summarizes the cricketer that he is. And I think,
Mm,
and if I had to just say that, suppose he continues on with this form, would I pick him in
mm,
the English team or not? And the answer
mm,
would be yes, obviously, because
mm,
even though his numbers don't stack up, I think, as you have just pointed out, um, I'll get onto the workload later, but I think that just the ability he has to pull England out of bad situations,
mm,
a man for a crisis basically, and he's done that n number of times. And I think
yeah,
you cannot trade that for anything. And I think even in Indian conditions, like you said, that 70
mm,
odd he played. I think Bumrah bowled an absolute jaffer, to which he
mm,
eventually got bowled there. Before that,
yeah,
he was looking really good. And I think, yeah, he does have some problems in Asia, and he should not get complacent. There should be criticism that should be directed
mm,
his way. But if I were there, I think he deserves a place. But solely as a captain, if he were to like
yeah,
completely blank out on all performances, is he
mm,
good enough as a captain to make a side as a specialist
mm,
captain, like Mike Brearley say? Is that
yeah.
for you? So
Um, I,
in
I
a scenario where he does not bat or like can't bat and can't bowl
mm.
or field.
I think actually his strength is his on-field captaincy. I think sometimes he goes over the top with the kind of mentality, like strange declarations, the tempo that's set sometimes is a bit too attacking. But on the field, I think he's actually quite good with the bowlers, and you can see that the bowlers and fielders respond to him. So maybe he is. I think it's made the decision's made easier by the fact that there are some people in the England side that aren't that great anyway. So if you were saying it's a batting lineup of Ian Bell, Kevin Peterson, um, Strauss, Cook, Trott, then you're going, we just can't have him in here as a specialist captain. You can't drop one of these guys. But with Pope, but if I had to pick Stokes or Pope, and if Stokes only plays a batsman and a captain, I'd happily pick Stokes. So it's not. There are still a few people there that would be okay to drop. Um, I couldn't drop Root or Brook for Stokes, or maybe not even Jamie Smith now, but I could drop Pope.
Yeah, I think Pope needs to be dropped anyways, because what are those performances, right? Um, yeah, so coming on to Pakistan,
Mm,
Kamran Ghulam, like, what can we speak about him? I think that with the pressure of replacing Babar Azam,
mm,
and we just covered, getting onto the Pakistan bit. We
mm.
remember, you remember the conversation we had last week, just thinking about how bad of a mess Pakistan was in,
Yeah,
and they could be just from corner, from cage, they could be
yeah, we
cage
said that.
tigers again. Yeah, cage tigers again, and they did exactly that. And I looked at
Yeah,
Kamran Ghulam's innings. He looks like a uh, fresh spring chicken, and he's got a lot of energy. He plays with a smile on his
yeah,
face, and I think he's a good prospect. But there were some issues, according to me, like, which
mm,
didn't get exposed in these conditions at the start,
mm,
because it didn't do much. i
yeah,
think I think he has a bit of a weakness against the moving ball, which is going to
mm,
get exposed. But yeah, he did really well here. Saeem Ayub, I think, was a bit unlucky at 77.
mm,
Should have kicked on further. And
mm,
yeah, England allowing Amir Jamal and Noman Ali to get past their lead was bad for
mm,
them. After that, I think in the second innings, yeah, the same thing again. You see, Sajid Khan scored
yeah,
22 and Salman Agha 63.
mm,
There's a lot of
yeah,
runs which are lost by England, bowling
yeah,
to the tail, not being able to get the tail out cheaply. And whereas you see England's tail, no one apart
yeah,
from Jack Leach contributed,
yeah.
not even in the
That,
second innings.
that's a very good point because what I mentioned earlier that it exposed some of the frailties of Bazball, and I was thinking of the batting, but it's equally true of finishing off the tail enders. They, I haven't seen them under McCollum finish off the tail enders at all, and they usually revert less so in this match, but to this idea of bouncing the tail all the time. But it's bouncing the tail with people who aren't even that quick. So these are just bouncers that go over the tail's head and they just leave it. And and that's it. And they keep doing it like they're the Great West Indian attack of the 80s or something. And it doesn't really work. These bouncers have to be aimed at the kind of throat or the glove or the chest, not bouncers sailing over someone's head. They're not going to do anything, especially on like a placid pitch. So I think unless you've got someone really express, there's no point in keeping on doing that. But I think it's funny that England haven't really developed a way of getting the tail out. It's interesting.
Yeah, they haven't. I think they should have just bowled normally, because at the end of the day, the
Yeah,
pitch was just spinning like a
yeah,
spin. It was raging by the end. So yeah,
yeah,
you're pretty correct. I think whenever they couldn't do anything, even in India, I was just surprised. Go back, get Mark Wood bowling in the
yeah.
35-degree heat, and make him bowl, make him bowl halfway down the pitch. That didn't work at all. I don't remember, apart from, I think there was one Rohit Sharma wicket. which came
Yeah,
around from this tactic. But
yeah.
apart from that, it bore no fruition over 5 tests. So
Because there
yeah,
was an interesting one in India. Do you remember? I think it was the fourth test, and England should have had a bigger lead than they had in the end. And was it Kuldeep who made runs?
yeah,
But
Kuldeep and Dhruv Jurel.
yeah, and I think that the deficit in the end was only like, was it 50 in the end, and it should have been like 100 or something.
Yeah, yeah,
And that was exposed. It was exposed in the Ashes last year when Australia needed like, oh, I think it was 60 runs with 2 wickets left, and they got them with Cummings and Lyon. And it just there's a way that England just can't get the tail. Uh, In the past, lots of people would bowl, quick Yorkers to tailenders, and we tend to go down the bouncer route. I think I don't. I'm hoping this isn't the reason, but in the past, where people didn't have helmets, tailenders were afraid of the short ball. But this was short ball directed at their throat and their heads and their chest. It wasn't, miles over their head by an 80-mile-per-hour bowler. You're not going to be scared by Potts bowling 2 miles over your head. You're not going to flinch or anything. You're not going to play a stupid shot unless you. So I think maybe their thinking's a bit out of date, really.
yeah. If you look at the best tail end bowler, who's Mitchell Stark currently, how does he bowl?
Yeah,
He bowls
yeah,
at the pads, and
Yorkers.
he bowls like how he bowls to top order batters,
Yeah,
and with the odd bouncer here and there. And you see,
yeah.
no tail ender in the world would like facing up to Mitchell Stark. But
No,
no, and even Jimmy Anderson, I don't. He used to bowl normal bowling to every
yeah,
single tail ender, even though
yeah,
he was not very express at the end of his career, and yet he got
no,
so many wickets. And I think that's a point where I think it gets to complacency where they
yeah,
expect to get rewarded for whatever they have done, whereas cricket does not reward you inherently for what you do. You always need to be on it. And I think by the end, and this is a common theme of baseball, which
yeah.
centers around a bit of complacency. And
Mm.
I think it stems from that. What did you
But
make of the
yeah,
Pakistani
sorry.
yeah, what did you make of the Pakistani trio who we had downplayed a lot? Noman Ali, Sajid Khan, and Zahid
Would
Mahmood, who basically had the same role as me and you on the game.
yeah, I would have liked his job. He hardly bowled, didn't he? Really?
Yeah.
Um, um, but the other two bowled really well. I mean, they were in one way they're fortunate to bowl second on it, but they did their job and they bowled much better than the England spinners. This is the thing people keep saying, oh, it's a turning pitch. Well, England spinners didn't bowl that well in the second innings, really. Not compared to them. And they looked like people who knew what they were doing. Uh, and an interesting celebration as well. They they seemed like they knew what they were doing more than the England spinners did. Um, and I, I think I wonder if they worked out. I wonder if they had to work out the England batsmen in the second innings, or it was just England just played so kind of recklessly that they just had to hold their nerve, really.
Yeah, I think at the end it was just holding their nerve because the ball was
Yeah,
doing a lot. And I think why Sajid Khan was especially he was successful in
mm,
the first innings because he puts revs on the ball. If you see his
yeah,
action, he's very chest on and he bowls with a lot of energy and that puts revolutions on the ball and
mm,
he had energy going behind it, whereas someone like Jack Leach, and this is
mm,
why I think England was so keen to have Shoaib Bashir in their team because they
yeah,
expect him to drive the ball into the pitch where so
yeah,
that the ball can zip through off the surface. But I think he's been very substandard, and even though he got 4 wickets in the last innings, he was not really up to where he should have been.
mm,
So yeah, I think if England want to have success, which like how Noman Ali was more of an like he got wickets because of the pitch, not so much because of his own ability.
mm,
Not trying to disrespect him, but at the end,
no,
we all know that if he bowled on the previous surface, he would not have gotten as many wickets, which
no,
I think would not have been true of Sajid Khan. But I
yeah,
think if Joe Root would have been a really good option. I suggested this to you as well. I
yeah,
think if Joe Root would have been brought on with the new ball,
mm,
like Ashwin is in India, he would have been very
yeah,
successful. Yeah, so I think that is something where England lacks still. They thought that they had someone who could bowl on the subcontinental wickets and get
mm,
quick turn with Shoaib Bashir, but They don't apparently by now. Liam Dawson still, I don't think they'll bring him in. No chance.
No, no. And
Um,
Hartley they seem to have forgotten as well.
yeah, Hartley was actually a good one. He also seemed to have been driving it up. Do you think
Yeah.
that like Hartley they'll axe Bashir in the next series, or does he play too much golf?
No, I think they've just made a decision that they think in the future he's going to be really good, and they're just going to continually play him in the hope that by the Ashes in November he would have developed. I think they identified him as the spinner for the Ashes, and they're just going to keep playing him. And they'll uh, it's risky because when you're playing sides that can play spin, he got away with it against the West Indies, but Sri Lanka played him really well. Pakistan have played him well. I'm sure India will play him well. And then I don't know if he'll go into the Ashes with any confidence. They brought Arayan Ahmed in for this game as for tomorrow's test as well. So I don't know if that's going to provide more support. Um, but
Yeah, I think
yeah,
both.
I think I think the word he used was the word ceiling. He said that Bashir's got a very high
Yeah,
ceiling.
yeah, yeah.
And so I think they're just going with that because he's only 21. I think he's hardly played any county games. I think he played about five or six before they picked him for the India tour.
Yeah, you're correct. I think he does look, we both recognize why he's been picked. It's not something
Yeah,
which has been done without any reason. But as far as what I have seen till now and what I'd seen in India, like he's very young in his career, I know, but he didn't really look very like polished, obviously. And
no,
even from what I've seen right now, I don't think he's going to turn out to be what England think he is going to be. But good
no.
luck to him because who knows, maybe he could.
Yeah, because
People
I think
have, yeah,
who was it?
go on.
The spin bowling coach. I think Jitan Patel, the old New Zealand player. He was saying that Bashir could be the best spinner of this generation. And so we'll see, I suppose.
That's just a gimmick, isn't it? You know
He
that.
thinks he said he's going to be like Ashwin. I think it was in the news today.
No, no. Ashwin was really good right off the front. He used to pick up wickets
Mm.
often. So, yeah, like no disrespect to Shoaib Bashir, even though I don't really like him as a person, also, which because he gets too animated in his celebrations. Yeah. I think we were going to discuss on the importance of toss in cricket. Do you think that tosses should be as important as they are right now? I think as a purely from a cricket fan
Mm.
perspective, I think it's unfair that a purely luck thing can have such a big impact on your game. But if I were supporting a team, and I've seen so many
Mm.
people trying to justify that England lost, oh, because toss lost. So are you just going to accept your team losing because they lost the toss? Then what's the point of even playing the game then? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
just have the toss and then leave it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That just because I know the conditions are unfavorable for you, but you expect your team to do well regardless. But yeah, I do understand that as a cricket fan, there should be something which would prevent that big of an advantage going to one side. How do you think it should be solved, or do you have any ideas for that?
Oh,
I'm
it's a
putting you on
tricky
the
one because
spot there.
yeah, I remember Barry Richards said that the away side should get the choice of what to do at the toss.
Yeah,
That
but
was his suggestion to stop teams producing pitches that were too advantageous to them. Um, so that was one original idea. But sometimes people get the toss wrong, and that can be equally as bad. So sometimes it's not always obvious what the best thing to do with the toss is.
yeah, that's what I'm
So
saying,
it's
right?
no guarantee.
Like in India, 90% of the time, if you're going to bat for 2 days, it's going to spin
Mm,
from day three. And you're
yeah,
going to like unless you're going to have some sort of big comeback or you're India, you're not
mm,
going to win that test 90% of the
no,
time. So
no, not at all.
it's heavily dependent on toss. And like it happened, India chose to bat against New Zealand that day, which we're going
Mm,
to come on later because of that very
yeah,
reason that they thought that the first session will be a bit nippy and after that it'll get
yeah,
flat like it did and they're going to
yeah.
score plenty of runs. But as it turned out, the pitch had way too much venom in it. So we can't really judge the pitch. Even the best of curators can't judge
No.
what the pitch is going to do. So I don't really think we have a solution there, and we're just going to have to roll with it
What
and try to make host boards produce more cricket friendly pitches rather than WTC friendly pitches.
what was interesting was the amount of people on Twitter who were talking about whether they'd always call heads or tails. That was quite interesting. Um, and apparently Stokes always does tails because of this rhyme, tails never fails. But we've lost our last seven tosses, so it does fail sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think there's any merit to calling tails or heads. It does not matter. MS Dhoni, I think, has a 80% success record in all
Oh
tosses.
wow!
You go and ask him what he does. He just goes and says whatever he feels like. So it's not something which is magic. You just there's nothing to a toss basically. It's just an added event. How I
I
think in
think
football also they have a toss, but it does not matter all that much
yeah, it
for
doesn't matter.
penalty.
It's just the end, so it doesn't really matter which end you start at. But then
Yeah.
I think Pakistan did this interesting trick. I don't know if Imran Khan was captain, but he sent out his luckiest player at the toss on one or
Yeah,
two
yeah.
occasions.
Kohli
So that
also
was quite
did
a good
that
move.
once.
Yeah, that
Kohli
was an
also.
interesting move.
Oh, right. Yeah. So looking up to the decider, I think it's in Rawalpindi, and they've already started the industrial sized fans on it. But it looks like concrete to me. How is it ever
Yeah,
going to turn? Like, I think you could have the fans running for 51 years and draining all of Pakistan's industrial output, but it would not do a single thing to that pitch, according to me. It's just so flat. I see it having another 800. There's a possibility of another
oh, really?
800,
So
900
you
being.
don't think the toss will be as crucial in this game?
I think it will be, but I think it will only start spinning at best after day four.
Ah, okay. So really, if you had if the team batting second like, surpassed the team who batted first, then they could still actually win that match. It's not going to be, terminal if they lose the toss on day
No,
one.
no, no. I don't think
No.
so. I think the pitches, and I think this could be a no result. This could be a draw, even though Baz hates them, and then I could be a genius and say that I
Yeah,
said
you said
1-1,
1-1, and I said
1-1.
2-1.
Yeah, I think that is a very real possibility. If you saw the how the dryers were going on, I
Yeah,
don't know what they expect out of just trying the pitch like that. It boils down in India at 40 degrees,
yeah,
but unless you actively do not water it for 4 or 5 months, it does not do
yeah,
anything. So yeah, I think they're
yeah.
just preparing it for their spinners, and I expect this honestly to be a draw. What about you?
I'd, I've got a feeling whoever wins the toss and bats first will win. I've just got that feeling, but I'd have to wake up at 5:30, see who wins the toss, and give you my prediction. But I think as I predicted England 2-1, I'll have to stick to that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. You are
Mm.
like, come on, England. So you'll say, what are the things we have to look forward to in that test? Come,
I suppose you've got Rain Ahmed playing. He's come
yeah,
back
Rehan Ahmed.
after.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
discuss Rehan Ahmed. I think I looked at him in India, and
Mm,
he looked like he's very passionate about everything he does.
mm,
Whenever he got out, he was like really angry, and
yeah,
he used to bowl, and he's not really Shane Warne, but
yeah,
he wants to. He thinks he's Shane Warne, and that can
yeah,
be
yeah.
beneficial sometimes. And
He
yeah,
met Shane Warne when he was young. Have you seen that footage?
who Rehan oh, I
Yeah,
think I think I have somewhere the ECB uploaded that maybe. Yeah, I think
yeah, yeah.
he does not turn the ball a lot. I think he bowls really quickly,
Mm,
and a bit like Noman Ali. So he
mm,
might be successful, but is he really the best option England have?
mm. Again, I think it's the idea of the ceiling, isn't it? Apparently his brother's really good.
I think Bashir has a higher ceiling than Rehan Ahmed, and
Mm.
I don't really like Bashir, so you know where.
But apparently Rain Ahmed's brother's really good. He's only 16. He's already played county
Oh, I
cricket.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so he might be the best one of our three young spinners,
So get
maybe.
him in, right? He's young.
Yeah,
If he plays golf, then he should be in.
I think the funny thing is that about Rayan Ahmed, he sometimes a lot of people thought he was more of a batter than a bowler. He's an all-rounder. At Leicester, I think he bats at six. So I wonder if he's more of a batsman that bowls, but England play more of as a bowler who bats.
Yeah,
So
I
I suppose
see.
we'll yet to see.
Yeah, I see him as a bowler who bats because
Mm,
definitely he's not a batter who bowls. And if you looked at the
mm,
series earlier, it does not look that way either. England have picked three spinners and two pacers, and I think that's a wrong combination because
mm,
if Pakistan go in, win the toss, and choose to bat, then
Yeah.
you're going to have a hard 2 days because
Yeah.
Pakistan's going to bat 2 days on it, and you can't. And Ben Stokes will have to put in a shift, which I think will be detrimental to the team. And I just think that they should have picked one more seamer in there. What
Yeah,
do you
because
think?
yeah, I wa- see if the three spinners were really reliable, you
Yeah.
could say there's an argument for those three spinners, but they're not really. So they could have gone for someone like Cast because I know they rested Cast down. They brought Atkinson back. So yeah, that's what it just I suppose it depends so much on the toss. And if England put up a big score batting first, and it kind of um it it goes the way of Pakistan having to to block out the last day or to chase, I don't know, 350 on the last day, they could crack under pressure. Um, but it just depends on us winning the toss there.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of those workhorse overs that's going to be needed to be bowled, and I don't think that there's people in there who are going to bowl
Mm,
that. And as I said, according to me, it won't spin.
mm,
If someone can bat like for 4 days, it won't spin.
mm.
So if they don't have like three paces, then it's going to be a hard job for them.
Yeah, no, definitely. The thing is, I wonder if the management or Stokes are kind of almost kidding themselves about how many overs he can bowl because he's got strapping on his knee. He had strapping on his hamstring as well in the other game, and in the end, he didn't bowl that many overs. So it's funny to think that he's all of a sudden going to start bowling loads of overs in this test, isn't it? Really, maybe he'll open the bowling for a few overs
Yeah,
and then bowl a bit if I
yeah,
don't think it's going to
Zach.
reverse swing either, is it? So it's not going to get any reverse swing there either.
Yeah, so Crawley and Stokes opening the bowling. How does that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that well, if they're going to bat first, then they'll have to bat for 3.5 days. That's just it for me. Bat 3.5 days, and after that you'll start spinning, because you cannot. And I'm being honest here. It sounds like
yeah,
a joke, but if you're going to bat for 2 days, then you'd expect that from the third day it'll spin a bit. But I can promise you that once Pakistan see that 2 days have been gone and they have an opportunity to draw again, they are going to draw
yeah,
the game, because Shan
yeah,
Mashood does not want another loss series in his cabinet. So he's just going to block out the 2 3 days, and they're going to play for a meek draw. So if England wants to win the test, if they were
yeah.
batting first, I'd bat for 3.5 days, expect the pitch to crumble, and just go through Pakistan in the two innings quickly after that. Score around whatever if they want to go past 1,000, they could very well go past that.
Yeah. If, do you think it'll be more exciting than the first test then, or do you think
No,
it's
no, I
going
think
to
it'll be worse.
be worse? Oh, okay. That's a good advert for the game.
Yeah, they could have just played on the same strip in Multan, the third test, right?
That would have
Yeah,
lasted about 2 days, wouldn't it?
yeah, 2 days. That was a viable possibility. I think they didn't have any other grounds available, but still, you could have prepared for it earlier, right? Why is everything so last minute with Pakistan cricket? If you're seeing that the game is going well, they just waited. Who's going to win this game? If it was by
Mm,
one run England, then they would not
mm,
have done anything. They would have made another set of sweeping changes and made a
yeah,
fucking and made a green meadow. I am sorry for trying.
yeah, yeah,
I went into an insult. So yeah, they're going to make a green meadow and try to cloud seed and create clouds above so that their bowlers can get into the innings. But yeah, that's just ridiculous. I think everything's so last minute, and yet they have done so well, Pakistan. And that's nothing to do with the selectors. And I put
mm,
out a tweet before the game that the
mm,
selectors deserve absolutely zero credit for whatever Pakistan did in the last game. It was all of the players. And if Pakistan do go on to win the next game,
mm,
which I think would be a great thing for cricket, but
mm,
or even a draw would be a really good thing for
mm,
cricket, because again England winning would be just we all expect England to win
mm,
basically. So I think yeah, Pakistan have a really good chance to win in there. If I had to pick out the people who I think will do the best for Pakistan in the next test with the bat, I think Mohammad Rizwan has a due century, and with the
mm.
ball, I think have do they have the same lineup? I think they have
Yeah,
this.
I heard it was the same side.
Yeah, so
I
I
think
think
that's what Gillespie said.
so I think with the ball, they are going to Sajid Khan is going to have another say on the game, and I
Yeah,
think Joe Root is going to have another low test match because come on, he deserves a low test match. And with the ball, I
You just don't
think
want him to catch Sachin.
yeah. No, I don't really care about him catching up to Sachin. I care about that he's going so high in the pecking order in the Fab Four. So that's a
Oh
problem.
yeah,
Yeah. In the bowling, I think England, who's going to do best? Yeah, Jack Leach. He's a safe bet,
Leach, I
right?
think.
He's
Yeah,
the only prediction which both of us have got right. Like,
yeah. I'm thankful for Jack Leach for that.
yeah. Do you think we should move on to the India versus New Zealand
Yeah,
test?
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I think first off, I
Mm,
didn't see the first session, right? I
mm,
woke up at India were 28 for 2 and Virat Kohli had gotten out. So I went to sleep
mm,
again because what am I going to see? I woke up and
mm,
I'm seeing 36 for 9. And I'm like, is this 2021 again? So yeah, and I'm just like, and I was talking to my uncle the other day,
mm,
and if Rohit Sharma is going to like he came out in the press conference and his first words were that it's okay to have a bad day in the field. And
mm.
I think that they copy a lot of things from baseball and they say a lot of things similar to baseball, and I just hate it because no, I do not want India to be like that way. I want India to be ruthless and have a winning mentality. Like I remember, like you should at least be saying that this is not acceptable. He was asked a question that your
Yeah,
fielding was not up to the mark. India dropped around 5 catches in the first day. Rohit said that, yeah, well, you can have a bad day in the field. It goes. He's like, okay, but I don't think that's the attitude you want to carry. And if you're going
mm,
to Australia, Australia is a tough place, and if you're going to be
mm,
complacent there, you're not going to win anything. So I think if I were to narrow down it to the first day, I think it was a lot of okay, it's New Zealand. We can have a bad day here and there, and then
mm.
we are going to play catch up cricket.
But because I read your Substack article, that
Yeah,
was very good. But you were very critical of Sharma
yeah,
in a way
I
that
yeah.
it's kind of bucked the trend because before this series, there's lots of good things written about him on lots of cricket sites, and they're even saying that he could be one of India's best captains. But you kind of disagreed in your article.
Yeah, and I think that there's nothing to be said about that because if you just look at India at how they
Mm,
approach the game, say pre Rohit Sharma and post
mm,
Rohit Sharma,
yeah.
it's just a massive difference, right? Like before, like when Virat Kohli used to be captain, if you used to see how they played, that there was a sense of activeness on the field,
Mm,
even in situations where you'd expect India, like before, like how they were under Dhoni, they'd go back
mm,
in the defensive, they'd not have slips. But I remember a
mm,
very good game, and India didn't win this game. This was against South Africa in 2021.
mm,
So then South Africa needed around 50 to win. There was Temba
mm,
Bavuma and Keegan Peterson on strike. This was in Cape Town.
mm,
So they had
mm,
lost 4 wickets and the fifth wicket just fell. And
mm,
people thought that India is going to lose very easily. And Virat
mm,
got charged up as soon as that wicket went. He put in 4 slips, one short
mm,
leg, one slip point, and just got all of his fielders in, started chirping. And for
yeah.
about a half an hour, not a single run was scored. And Temba Bavuma and Keegan Peterson looked like they couldn't bat at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had the share of luck go their way, and after that, they won the game. But that's not my point. My point is that if you're going to captain in Test match cricket, you cannot just rely on being a tactical genius,
Mm,
which Rohit is, and he does benefit a lot from that in white ball cricket, which he has done over the years and has won so many IPL titles. But
yeah.
yeah, I think there's a lot of flaws to him. And yeah,
Well,
Gautam Gambhir is someone who I want to address as well because
mm,
he's been picked. I don't think many people know why he's been picked for the India squad as head
mm,
coach. So he has a very high reputation of going around and saying things which
mm,
don't really make sense. So he used to say that MS Dhoni won the 2011 World Cup. Like MS Dhoni gets a lot of credit for winning the
mm,
2011 World Cup, but he shouldn't. So he said a lot of those kinds of things.
yeah.
And yeah, I think he was picked because KKR won the IPL this year, and people thought that KKR's win was attributed solely to Gambhir, whereas there was a guy called Chandrakant Pandit who was working with the KKR players for 5 months prior to the IPL, and
Yeah.
he, along with a few other people, had made KKR into such a good setup. If you look at their team, they were the best balanced, and they cannot replicate that again. So
Mm,
Gambhir's role was that and was very minimal, and yeah, so his impact was just minimal uh, in the KKR franchise, and he didn't really do anything. And after that, what happened was that he speaks very regularly of players being over glorified and in India having
Mm,
individual obsession, and he was really vocal about stopping that. But somehow he made himself and tried to make himself a hero again. So it was
mm,
very hypocritical in that way, that in that sense that we have these ads, and then that it's Gambhir ka first showdown, which means that first showdown of Gambhir. So it's just like, how are you're being counterintuitive to what you originally said. And
more
I
like
don't think,
Animal Farm.
yeah, I don't think that he is going to be sacked, and I don't think it should be, because there's a lot of time ahead and there's a lot of things which he should do. And I do not
Mm,
want Indian cricket to be like Pakistan, to just sweep, make changes every day. But
mm,
yes, if I were to pick someone else, I'd probably ask Dravid to carry on, which I
mm,
don't think he was really keen on. And if he
mm,
wasn't, I would look somewhere like Ponting or someone like
mm,
that, because Ponting was available. Ponting and
mm.
who was that? Tom Moody. Yeah, Tom Moody was available, but they
Tom
didn't
Moody,
really
I believe.
want to pick Tom Moody. Yeah.
Yeah. I think when I was reading your article, I was thinking that I suppose the counterpoint would be it's just one game in the series. If India come back and win it 2-1, um, it hasn't done too much damage, and these things happen on the odd occasion, but they're still doing really well. What would you say to someone who said that?
Yeah, so to someone who said that, I'd just say that if you looked at the record, like I have said
Mm,
n amount of times, that India didn't lose a test for 7 years under Virat Kohli. So the Indian
mm,
home test record, it's something that is now going up to a legendary status. It's going into the
mm,
annals of cricket history, and
yeah,
it is something that I personally take pride in as an Indian cricket fan. So
mm,
if we are going to lose test matches to New Zealand, who should not be winning test matches in India, then it's a
yeah,
shameful thing. And everyone here is not really happy with that, because earlier, before Kohli, you had the earlier one or two tests which you could lose, and I know that it's a bit of a knee jerk reaction, that okay, but it's not, because I've seen how Rohit captain, and even in the England series, I thought he was
mm,
not really up to the mark in that
mm,
in that Ollie Pope innings. I think he just went back on the defense too often, and he didn't really
mm,
have a plan B, what to go to. I remember, like, he was like, okay, I'll just bowl Ashwin and Bumrah, but how much can
mm,
Ashwin and Bumrah give you at the end of the day? You need a plan
yeah,
B, and he didn't have that. And the same has carried on to now. And if you saw the World Test Championship final in
mm,
2023, Travis Head
mm,
and Steve Smith, they were just smashing India. And it
yeah,
seemed
I
like
saw that.
Rohit didn't know what to do after that. And he's a very good captain when everything is going well, but who isn't, right? Then.
Yeah, would he be under pressure if they lost to Australia or England?
Yeah, I think he would be. I think in the most fair scenario, he'd be sacked
Mm,
if he lost to Australia, because we have a World Test Championship final coming up
mm,
if we get there, because still need to win 3 games, which I
mm,
think we should. But
yeah,
if we lose the tour to Australia, I think he'll be sacked, and someone like Rishabh Pant or Shubman Gill or Bumrah. But I don't want to give Bumrah captaincy, because I don't think
yeah,
he should play all tests in India. He's just going to fall
yeah,
apart. So yeah, that's on Rohit Sharma's captaincy. Now coming on to the actual players, I think
mm,
um, now we have to give credit where it's due to New Zealand, because they bowled really
yeah,
well as
yeah,
well. Yeah,
definitely.
Will O'Rourke, and who predicted that Virat Kohli is going to go to Will O'Rourke
Yeah, pretty
second
huge,
step?
isn't it?
Yeah, just be right there, and they just Matt Henry. It was just like all over 2020, 2019, New Zealand running
Mm,
through India in that World Cup
yeah,
semi-final. So it just seemed that same way. And Tim Southey, I think he was also really good in the first innings. Henry, Will O'Rourke,
mm,
just add Kyle Jamieson to that and Ben Sears, and it looks like a devastating attack.
yeah, and I suppose uh, the guy we mentioned, I think it was last week, Ravindra, proving how good he is again as well.
Yeah, he scored a 134, and I didn't catch up a lot with his innings, because I was not there. But from
Mm,
whatever I heard, he played really well. Even though the pitch flattened out a bit,
mm,
he counter-attacked a lot, and Tim Southey did too. Like, yeah, that's where the Rohit point was coming from, right? You cannot have Tim Southey scoring
mm,
65, right? In
yeah,
any scenario, you cannot have Tim Southey scoring 65. But
he does hit
yeah,
lots of sixes though, Selby.
yeah, Umesh Yadav did too, but other teams could
Yeah,
get him out. Uh, yeah, so Rachin Ravindra, I think he played really well. And who bowled nicely for India in the first innings? Was it Kuldeep? Yeah, I think he came on and he picked up Tom Latham. He picked up, and after that he bowled a really good spell. Apart from Kuldeep, and at the end it was Jadeja who was spinning it from the rough. But apart from that, no one really bowled well. And
Do
yeah,
do
new
you think India should have? I mean, it's a bit harsh to say it because the all the damage was done in the first innings, but do you think they might have collapsed a bit in the second innings as well?
Yeah, they did. I think they collapsed for 40, 54 for 7. And when they were
Mm,
408 for 3, first of all, like, I have to say that that innings from, let's just go back a little and then I'll come
mm,
back to this. Uh, I think Rohit Sharma was really unlucky to get out the way he did. Yashasvi
mm,
Jaiswal, it was just a brain feed moment. And I swear to God, when I saw him step out of the pitch with 300 behind, I thought, what are you doing? Like, you're 300 behind. You
mm,
you're playing to save a game and you step out and try to hit the bowler from the rough
mm,
of for six, and I'm just like, what? Yeah, and after that, I think who came in? Kohli. Yeah, Virat came in at number 3, and they steadied the ship a little, and
mm.
getting out at the last ball of the day. That's something,
Yeah.
right? That is really. I think if Virat hadn't gotten out of the last ball of the day, he could have. He's got 7 double hundred, so he'd have
Mm,
probably converted or something like that. And yeah, I think in the second day, Sarfaraz and Rishabh Pant, I think the rain break helped them a lot because there was a
mm,
bit of a nippy period there. And if I don't
mm.
know if you saw the run out chance which New Zealand missed, and Sarfaraz was jumping around like Javed Miandad in 1980s. So yeah,
But, did they change the ball or something? I heard there was a ball change
yeah,
and it
yeah.
had an impact.
So they were going really well, and I think Sarfaraz has gotten out. The second new ball wasn't doing much, and Rishabh
Mm,
got down on one knee and hit a
mm,
brilliant 107 meters six that went down of the ground, and the ball had to be changed. And what happens after that? The ball starts talking like we have
mm,
never seen before, and he gets Villoroke gets him, and I think KL Rahul, like, after that, you'd expect KL to, like,
mm.
this is the situation for which he's in the team, and this is why
Yeah, dependable player.
he's preferred over Sarfaraz because of this very reason, and I prefer him for that reason too. That he will do well in seaming conditions, like we'll get in Australia. But that wasn't really a very, like, brutal ball which no one could play. But yeah, maybe we could say that Kale had bad luck, but surely, man,
Mm,
you cannot expect that. He averages 30 in Test cricket, and he cannot go on for much longer if he plays like this. After that, I
mm,
think Jadeja had a very silly dismissal, and India
mm,
just collapsed after that. And 107 for one. What? No, sorry. New Zealand needed 107 to chase, and
mm,
yeah, I think there was a bad decision from the umpires there, because at the fag end of India's batting, the
mm,
clouds had gotten really dark as well. But India
mm,
got on, and the bowlers also got on, and India got bowled out cheaply. So when New Zealand came out to bat, they should have
mm.
at least allowed till the rain came in. At least what I think of that. I might sound biased in that.
But
The
we've said this before that the light isn't for perfect conditions. The bad light rule came in to stop danger to the batsman. So if it's a bit dark and it's swinging, that isn't a reason to come off, is it? It's like
Yeah, exactly. Like, if the ball's hard to play, does not mean that you're going to go off, right? It's for
no, I think that's what the umpires think now. I think they think if it's difficult to bat in, go off. But really, it was meant for just purely for safety.
yeah,
But you
and
even get the umpires taking people off when a spinner bowls. You think, oh, this is madness.
yeah, and Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli were really angry, and it was like, I think the last time they were really angry was in 2021,
Yeah,
2022. Sorry, do you remember that game where Ravindra Jadeja and Pant scored centuries each, where Johnny Bairstow
yeah,
scored that famous century? So
yeah,
they were both really angry at the umpires because they were carrying on at with no light at whatsoever. So
yeah, yeah,
it was a carbon copy of that, but in the opposite situation. So they were
yeah.
really
No, no.
angry, and justifiably so, because the ball was doing a lot. The first over after that, I think Bumrah bowled a really good ball to Tom Latham,
Mm,
and I thought, okay, here we go. We may have something in there.
mm,
But Siraj, I think, and he's something someone we need to discuss upon as well,
mm,
because Siraj blows hot and cold too often.
mm,
He's going to
mm.
give you a Stuart Broad spell like 6 for 20, something
Yeah,
like that, every 10 test matches. But he's
yeah,
not like Stuart Broad, where he's 6'8", 6'7", where
mm,
he could just bang it on a length and just not get
yeah.
hit. whereas Siraj gets hit a lot when he's not completely
Yeah.
on song. And yeah, and we just had two seamers, and after that the spinners couldn't really do much. And Rohit didn't introduce Ashwin until 8 runs were needed. Another flaw, which I think was a very wrong decision, and it's been heavily criticized back here. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I did read what you wrote about that. I just think that score was always going to be too low, really. It's very rare that someone doesn't chase 100. Was it 108, 107? It's you just need like two people to get 30. You're basically there, and then the other people can get 10 or something. So I think it's so difficult. 150 plus can be tricky, but I think 107, 108 is uh, it's very hard to bowl someone out for that unless the pitch has exploded or something. Um,
Yeah, it is definitely very. No, my point was that I think India lacked a third seamer, first of all.
mm.
I think that,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I think either of Kuldeep or Ashwin should have been left out before the test match.
Mm,
And yeah, I think that Ashwin was introduced very late into the innings. And
mm,
if you seen Ashwin bowl in India,
mm,
he comes in
mm,
with the new ball and he picks up wickets of
mm.
left-handers. And there were three
Yeah,
left-handers
definitely.
in the New Zealand top order. And I know
Yeah.
that he was not very particularly high on confidence, but he's Ashwin, he has 600 wickets and he should have
Yeah.
been brought in earlier. And yeah, my point was that Siraj, I think I don't really know how he's going to fare in Australia, because it's basically a dress rehearsal for Australia, even though
Mm,
the home record matters a lot. But I think if Siraj is going to blow hot and cold like this, then
mm.
he's not going to do well. And do you think Akashdeep is going above him in the pecking order?
I think right now, yeah, but unless there's still time for Siraj to redeem himself, isn't there? I suppose if we're picking a side for Australia now, then he would do, I think.
Yeah, I think he was the leader of the attack last time, but I think he's
Mm,
quickly falling down in the pecking order in the eyes of everyone, because even in I think the World Cup final 2023, he didn't really do much. I think, yeah,
but
so
Shami will be back soon, though, won't he?
yeah,
Well, hopefully.
Shami says that he'll be back, but there
Mm,
was this really funny thing that Shami, like there were a lot of Times of India. It's a famous
mm,
newspaper here, so they
mm,
reported that Shami's got an injury again, and he won't be
mm.
available for the Border Gavaskar Trophy, and
Oh,
he won't be available for the New Zealand series. And Shami came in, he posted on his Instagram that these are
mm,
all baseless and these have no clear
mm,
truth to them. And then after that, Rohit Sharma comes into his press conference and says that Shami is injured. So we all thought that now Shami is going to debunk Rohit Sharma, but he didn't. So yeah, so no one is really sure what's going on with Shami, and I think he will be available hopefully for the
mm,
Australia test. But if he is not, then I think we have a weakness to deal with the third seamer, because even if we are able to fit one of Akashdeep or Siraj or
mm,
both of them, even then we do not have who are we going to play after that? I think it's a very thin line. We do have a lot of pacers who we can play, like Prasidh Krishna, Mukesh
mm,
Kumar. Umesh Yadav is a good prospect if they want
mm,
him. Ishant Sharma is still hanging around. Mayank
yeah.
Yadav, obviously, as we have said, but you cannot really replace Mohammad Shami there, can you?
Will they play both Ashwin and Jadeja in Australia?
No, I don't think in any
No,
pitch Ashwin is Jadeja. It
no,
can be either of Jadeja and Kuldeep or just
yeah,
Ashwin, but I don't really see all three of them or all
no,
two of them, Jadeja and Ashwin, playing together, because they Ashwin doesn't contribute enough with the bat regularly, so he's
mm.
not going to be in there. And yeah, what else was there in the game? I think in the second innings, who played well for New Zealand and with the bat? Let
Well,
me just
Philip's got a crucial wicket of Kohli with his occasional spin.
Yeah. I think that was just a case of he's really the golden arm in cricket, isn't it?
Mm.
Can you remember
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
who has a better golden arm than him? I think Kedar Jadhav might be one, if you
yeah.
remember his bowling.
Can't even remember his bowling now.
You don't remember
Um,
Kedar? He used to bowl from underground. People used to say he was really side on. I
oh,
don't.
okay, yeah, I think I remember actually.
Yeah, so he used to be a
Um,
golden arm like Phillips also. He used to be a wicket keeper
yeah,
also. So yeah, a lot of things match. But for New Zealand, yeah, it was Will Young and Rachin Ravindra again. And Rachin looks like a player, but yeah, looking forward to the next test. It's in Pune, and we are already getting reports that it's going to be a spinning pitch, a low
yeah, I
and
heard
spinning,
that.
a low and spinning pitch. And people are reacting very abruptly to that.
Mm,
A lot of people, especially from a couple of countries that
mm,
pounce on anything India does. So
mhm.
yeah, so I'm
Is
like,
there a risk in that though? Because
no,
if
then
it's really, really spinning, it might equalize the game. Whereas if it's just a flat pitch that turns a bit, India will win.
yeah, I think they're preparing a black soil pitch, so it's not going to be a ragging pitch like we had
Oh,
in
okay, I see.
2021. So it's going to be like, say, 2 days, it's good, 2 to 2.5 days, it's going to be really flat, very good to
Mm,
bat on. And after that, it's going to take turn. And I think by day four, day five, it's going to be nigh on unplayable. Yeah, so that's the
oh,
kind of pitch they're going for, and I think that's good. But they need to develop their pace attack, and which is why these five tests had green pitches. Like people were wondering why didn't we create rank turners like we used to
mm,
earlier? But I think that was the reason why India prepared green pitches preparing for Australia. And looking forward, I think in Pune, so yeah, you're going to have that wicket. If I have to expect a change, I think Gill is
mm,
going to come back. So they're going to, who would you drop, Sarfaraz or KL?
mm. I think I think I'd keep Shafraz.
But are you really going to like lose faith in KL over one test? Like that's a very highly debated issue right now here.
But could you not drop KRO?
I think they should, especially for given the conditions, they should play the
Mm,
best team in that's there. But I think if I were there, I would probably give Kale an extended run and
mm,
just say to Sarfaraz that just sit out. If Kale doesn't do well in the first test in Australia,
mm,
drop him. That's the end
yeah,
of his run. He's been given way too many chances,
yeah.
and after that, he can pack his bags. And Sarfaraz has a position for five
He'd be
years.
very unlucky, Shafraz, to be dropped after that, though, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but I think that KL Rahul, I think
Mm,
we have earmarked him as a
mm,
number five or number six for the Australia series. So if
mm,
you're not going to give game time to KL Rahul, he's not really going to do really
mm.
well there. So considering this is basically a dress rehearsal, I think he should be in the side, and Sarfaraz should rest take rest for 2 games basically.
Are you a
He,
bit worried now from an India perspective? It still looks like they'll make the World Test Championship final, but maybe slightly worried that they won't because I think South Africa are winning again today, aren't they? They just I think Bangladesh have got a lead of 80 with only 3 wickets left, so you think probably South Africa would win. They've still
yeah,
got to play Sri Lanka, and who else has South Africa got? Oh, Pakistan. So you think South Africa would probably win most of those games, really?
Yeah, and that's why I said that South Africa had the second best chance after India of
Mm,
making the World Test
yeah,
Championship finals. I think no, unless things go really, really south for India, I don't
mm,
see them not making the World Test Championship final because they have to win 3 games or win
yeah,
two and draw one. So are they going to get clean swept in Australia or clean swept against New Zealand? I
no,
don't think that's going to happen. So yeah,
no,
so I don't think that India is not going to make the World Test Championship finals, but I am worried because for me, the Border Gavaskar Trophy and a home record is something,
yeah,
and not only for me, I think for every Indian. Like I
mm,
mentioned in my article, that we do not want anyone to outdo the predecessors. We just want them to maintain the legacy that has been carried on.
yeah,
And after that, obviously, the World Test Championship final is a goal which we all want to win, but it's a one-off
mm,
test and it can go either way. But the Border Gavaskar Trophy and the New Zealand series in hand are most important right now. I think that Virat Kohli needs a century under his belt, and so does Rohit
yeah,
Sharma, because both of them are going to be key to India's chances in Australia. And I think Kane Williamson still not coming back for New Zealand.
mm,
Uh, who else is going? I see Daryl Mitchell scoring well in the next two tests for New Zealand,
yeah,
and
he's a good player. Yeah,
yeah, and I think Shubman Gill and Virat Kohli will come into the party for India in the next test. With the ball, I think for India, I think Akash Deep will be picked, so I think he will do really well.
yeah,
And for New Zealand, I think Will O'Rourke will continue his good form.
yeah. Although you might find the next pitch a bit harder.
Yeah, no, I think he'll do well regardless of the pitch, because
Yeah,
Kyle Jamieson came here last time around and he did relatively well because the pitches were doing a lot and the
mm.
ball was going underground, so he did well even there.
Do you? I don't know. Because we were talking, I think maybe in our first podcast about the relevance of test matches. Just being on Twitter, you get a like a it's a good way of
Depressing
looking
vibe.
at how people have. It's a what? Sorry.
A depressing vibe.
Yeah, a vibe that even though officially the Test series with New Zealand is as important as Australia, and for England, the Test series in Pakistan is as important as Australia next year. It doesn't seem like people seem to think it in a way that uh, I don't know if it's the same within me because I look at your tweets and you keep tweeting about the BGT trophy, um, uh, quite reminding people when it's on and counting down the days, and that you weren't doing that about the New Zealand test, and then with the England fans I see on there, it's they were very kind of relaxed about losing to Pakistan. It was like, yeah, lose to Pakistan, okay, fine. And but it wasn't. It didn't seem like it was important, if you know what I mean. It seemed like everything's a warm up. So unless India, England, and Australia are playing each other, these games people just kind of shrug. Oh, they lost to Pakistan. Yeah, so what? They lost the toss. What do you expect? It was no there was no like kind of analysis of it or even people just being worried or looking looking for answers or anything. It just seemed like it just wasn't really an issue. And is that the same with? I can't be exactly the same in India with New Zealand, but it has the Australia one got more attention, even though it's still a few weeks away. Well, a
Yeah,
few months away, really.
just to give context, before
Mm,
England came into India, we had
mm.
like from December 2023, the Border Gavaskar Trophy. The advertisements have been going on since December 2023, and
Oh
right
wow,
one day before the England series, they were still
yeah,
talking about the Border Gavaskar Trophy. The England series was
wow,
India. We basically expected, and I'm telling you that to win 5-0 against England. That was the
yeah,
so
at
we were
home,
disappointed. The first test went England's
yeah,
way. Yeah, so that is how well it's built up, the Border Gavaskar Trophy, and I think it's India's biggest Test series in Australia. The
yeah,
tour is biggest, even though we have not yet won in South Africa.
yeah,
I think I'd say every tour against Senna
yeah,
countries
yeah,
is still relevant for India, but I
yeah.
don't really think it's the same for England and Australia. I think Australia treats going to New Zealand as just going to the park to play with a bunch of kids because they win a lot in New Zealand. and
But
with with Pakistan, like you see,
yeah,
I think they have a lot of the Pakistani fans really like cricket, and you can see
yeah,
that in Twitter. But the Pakistani board doesn't really like cricket. All they like
yeah.
is money because they have the best tour. I think England is the best team. It's the marquee series that Pakistan is going to get. They
Oh, because
won't
they
get
can't
it.
play India.
Yeah, so they can't play India,
Yeah,
but they are not paying enough importance. Even Pakistan is not paying as much importance. They are changing the venues of the test matches in the last
yeah,
few days
and prioritizing the ICC trophy as well.
and Champions Trophy. But this is the thing.
Yeah,
This is your marquee test series. You cannot look forward to the Champions Trophy, which, like I said, will may not even happen in Pakistan.
yeah,
And it's a very real possibility that none of it happened. Like Richard Gould, I think he
yeah.
said that the ECB is prepared for contingency options. So they should just look
Mm,
at the current series that's happening. And yeah, I think you made a very correct point that there's a lack of relevance to things in cricket right now.
yeah.
I think over the years it has just been that if you tour a country for a series, it does not need any additional meaning or
No,
something in the
no.
broader context that should define why it's being played. But right now it's more like you have to give it context. Oh, this is like dress rehearsal for this tour,
Yeah,
dress rehearsal for this tour. And I think that's disruptive for the game because you're naturally going to sideline a few series. And I don't see how that's going to change unless we are going to have a structured model. Like you can go back to our second episode in our podcast
yeah,
where you can find out what we suggested there. I think we
yeah,
also need to come on this topic. There was an umpire's call decision, and I think that we both agree that umpire's call should be removed from the game.
yeah.
um
I,
just
yeah,
just to clear it up front, a lot of people are going to say that it's not completely accurate. I know that
yeah,
it's 98% accurate. You
yeah,
have a 2% margin of error. So I'm going to ask you a question. Would you
yeah.
rather all balls, like the stumps, be 2% bigger and all batsmen have to contend with that? Or would you rather have it 2% bigger only selectively when the umpire thinks that it's 2% bigger? Because the umpire cannot think better than the technology. Let's be honest, they can't.
No,
That
no.
little margin they are not able to distinguish between. So I think that
Uh,
they should, for a subjective decision, for an objective decision, there should not be a subjective outcome.
no.
And that is my
Yeah,
opinion on it. I know there are a lot of people who think that the umpiring bit is integral to the game of cricket, but it is not. It just adds an unnecessary factor. What do you think about
no.
this?
I'm in complete agreement with you. That the point of cricket. is not to kind of reinforce the umpire's status. If I don't know that it's so weird. Look, if the replay if the technology suggests it's out marginally, then it's out. That's it. And it, if they use the technology, it's not like they're saying there's a margin for error, so we won't give any decisions at all. They still give decisions, don't they? So if the decision that the umpire if the umpire gives a decision and he's only slightly wrong, they still give it to the umpire. If it, if he's so it's you just you gotta go with what you see, and if the technology says they're out, then they're out. And there's no, I don't think cricket was created. Going back to when it was created. Would the creators of cricket have said you if they were given technology? The technology's there to just back up the umpire for the umpire's sake. It doesn't make any sense at all. That they would have just wanted the right decision made, and that technology is as close as you're ever going to get to the perfect decision, and just use it. I just don't see the point in just. It's almost you don't have to mark the umpires down if it's close. You can still say they umpired well, but just give the correct decision. If you've got the technology, just use it.
Yeah, exactly. And I have another point which I think has not really been explored all that much. I
Mm,
think that reviewing should not be a skill thing in sport.
mm,
In my opinion, every single ball, as soon as it's bowled, should
mm,
be immediately checked by the third umpire in the Hawkeye, and everything
mm,
should be done in around 5 seconds. Like when the bowler
mm,
goes back to his run up, they can just do
mm,
that in 5 seconds. And I think
yeah,
and I think in that way you can have every single ball reviewed. I think, yeah, it sounds a bit tedious to have every single ball reviewed, but
yeah,
with modern day technology, it's not really a big thing. You have the no ball checked after every ball by the
yeah.
third umpire, so you could do this
And,
thing as well. And I think that would remove one element where the review is also made something of skill, which I don't really
mm.
think it should. What do you think about this?
Yeah, that's a good point because at the moment some captains are better at using it than others. I think Pope has failed with every single review he's had, whereas there are other
Yeah,
captains that are more kind of astute. But at the end of the day, you just want the correct decisions made, don't you?
yeah,
So
exactly.
I'd be happy for your suggestion. Um, I think someone else said, maybe it was David Lloyd or someone like that, that the if if you went against umpire's call, you'd have you might have games where teams are bowled out quite quickly or they get less runs. But so what? I mean, if that's what would have happened, that's what would have happened.
Yeah, it
I
was
don't know
Nas.
why.
Yeah, it was Nasser Hussain. I
I
think
was not.
that video is shared around a lot, where he says
Yeah.
that the margin of error gets increased and then you're going to have shorter test matches. But
Mm,
my thing is, would you rather have consistency and
mm,
give a fair margin? Like you're telling the batter, okay, you have a
mm,
2% bigger margin to
mm,
deal with it.
mm,
But we are not going to give you inconsistency that your mate will not get out because the
mm.
umpire had ice cream that day, but he didn't today, so he feels like he should raise his finger. So I think
Yeah.
that should not exist. And even if you have 20 runs less made overall, that does not
Yeah.
matter. You want to have a good want to have fair decisions, and I think cricket does really well, better than football, because VAR is
Yeah.
a joke in football, and same
Yeah.
with other
Yeah.
sports. So if we have a working thing which actually does well, why don't we utilize as well as it should? Because honestly, we just do a very bad job even with catching angles, those low catches. Why don't we have 3D
Yeah.
frames yet? For a
Yeah.
3D movement we have 2D frames, and that does not make sense. It's just at the end of the day what the umpire feels like. I think
Yeah.
that we
They
can
don't understand foreshortening.
Yeah, I think we can get to a position where you have every single element of the game where the
Mm,
outcome, I think the outcome
mm,
should not be dependent on umpire. So you can have an
mm,
AI which gets really well and can do
mm,
all of those things. But the umpire still exists on the pitch to give the
mm.
decisions, and that can be, of course, double checked by the AI. I think that should
And
be the way forward for the game.
and the other thing is, with NASA talking about changing the nature of the game, well, Hawkeye's already done that because lots of spinners now get wickets that they never would have done before.
Exactly.
Um, Someone like Graham Swan, I mean, bloody hell, I remember him in county cricket. He wasn't that much better than Robert Croft. Croft or Phil Tufnell didn't get many test wickets comparatively. Swan got a lot more. Now he's maybe marginally better than them, but he wasn't, like 200 wickets better than them, if you know what I mean. And it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just because he was around when the DRS came in, and so that's changed the nature of cricket. That could be in a good way or bad way. It doesn't matter. But so that's changed it. So the nature of cricket has already changed. So that, that's not a good. I don't think that's a good argument for keeping umpires cool.
Yeah, exactly. I think the end argument which I'll make is, what do you
Mm,
think cricket is? Is it a sport between two teams,
mm,
where if the one team does really well, you have that team winning, or do you want that team to have an external caveat of luck involved,
mm,
where the umpire's biasness could get involved in that way, which we want to remove? If you want it to be a completely fair decision, you should be on board
mm,
with us. But if you want to have that gimmick of human element to the game, then just go on with it. But I don't think that's fair. And
mm.
just looking up at the Women's World Cup, I think New Zealand won the Women's World Cup, and it was a really good victory. And yeah, Australia didn't win it, and India
Yeah.
and England didn't even
We
qualify.
we tipped New Zealand, didn't we? So that was really good of us.
I think, I think, I think I tipped India and you tipped England.
No, just
Yeah.
joking.
Yeah, uh, I just we are the curse too. Just for our audience, we have been talking about this behind the scenes a lot. We should change our name from the big three to the curse two, because apart from the Jack Leach prediction, everything that we have predicted has gone completely opposite by till now. So yeah, India got just carted over by Australia, and England lost to West Indies, which I think that was a bad game. I don't know if you saw that
Yeah.
game, but England should have won
A lot
that
of
game.
drop
And
catches. Yeah, a lot of drop catches there.
yeah, and Australia South Africa, that was a really unexpected result, that Australia
Mm,
beat South Africa. Sorry,
mm,
South Africa beat Australia. And yeah,
yeah.
in the final, New Zealand just played really well. And I think it was not as widely celebrated as it should have been. I was talking to a
Mm,
Kiwi supporter from, she said that, well, there's a bit of celebration, like it's going to be on the front page of the newspapers, but people are just
mm.
going to be like, yeah, it's another day. Whereas if the All Blacks in New Zealand won the Rugby World Cup, it'd be a huge celebration. That's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
wrong for
definitely.
cricket, isn't it? They just had a huge day in cricket. They beat India in a test match in
Mm,
India after 36 years and won the Women's World Cup against all odds. It should be
mm.
a big day, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. It's just it must be hard for someone, say from India or Pakistan, when they look at England or New Zealand, or even South Africa in a way, but they're big on rugby. Well, these are countries where cricket's like the second sport or even third sport sometimes.
Especially for
And it just
England.
doesn't get the coverage.
Yeah. Especially for England,
Mm,
like you'd expect, at least till I wasn't really exposed to the dynamics of the sport, like how much viewership things get, and I used
mm,
to think that England fans are just as passionate as Indian
mm,
fans, and I used to think of that way because I used to see packed crowds, but it was
mm,
only later that I realized that it's only the subcontinent where you have a lot of passion for cricket, and outside of that, it's very sparse and just in a specific community. And
mm,
I think we have a bit of time left, so I'm just going
mm,
to talk of a really good game that happened between,
mm.
not between Zimbabwe and Gambia. If you're all wondering, they scored 344 in 20 overs, because we're not going to discuss that. But yeah,
Oh,
India and Bangladesh, where India scored 297 in 20 overs. And
oh yeah.
yeah, so that looks like where T20 cricket is headed to, where there's going to be a lot of high scores. And
Mm,
honestly, if you're going to move to a bowler-oriented sport in tests and a
mm.
batter-oriented sport in T20s and a middle ground in ODIs, I'm not really against that.
No, I mean, do you think though sometimes the boundaries are almost like devalued in a way when you get such high scores that they're not as exciting as they normally are. If someone gets like in this case it was 297, that was amazing. But even when it's like 230, 220 in a T20 game, it's like the constant boundaries almost become like singles. And that you lose a bit of excitement over them. It's almost like a kind of hyperinflation of boundaries. What would you think?
Yeah, so we had the IPL this year where the average score was 210. So
Mm,
94, 74 games. And honestly, watching the game and looking at the reactions from different people, we
mm,
didn't really like, it was still exciting. And watching SRH go out and start to smack the ball. And I think that's what the new audience wants. And
okay.
and honestly, I think there's a bar. They should not go above 300. Let the score stay
Mm,
below 300. And if someone has a really good day, or unless it's Zimbabwe versus Gambia, We should
yeah.
allow like 297 should be the highest you can go, not beyond that. So yeah, I
But
think
then, do you think sometimes the bowlers have got something to answer for there? Because these like 10 different types of slower balls, they're not tricking anyone anymore, are they? You know, that the type of balls that Tom Curran used to bowl, and Chris Jordan. I don't think they're fooling anyone anymore. When it's just either like a wide Yorker or all these different slower balls or a slower ball bouncer, and no one's really trying to hit the stumps.
yeah, I think that with T20 cricket, I think the main problem is that what used to be unpredictable has become really predictable. So,
Yeah,
so the slower balls and all of that, the back of the hand slower balls, knuckle
yeah,
balls, they just don't bowl the stock ball anymore. And if you look
no,
at Jasprit Bumrah, what does he bowl? He's the best T20 bowler on the planet. He
yeah,
bowls 140 kilometers per hour length balls day in day out
yeah,
in T20 cricket as well. It's
yeah,
only the rare ball that is going to bowl a slower ball or an off cutter or something
yeah.
like that. And I think that's what like as you mentioned, current T20 bowlers lack, that they don't really want to put in the shift and they just want to bowl a lot of variations and expect to get away with it. But that used to be the thing with say 5 years back with Dwayne Bravo, but I don't think that with modern day analysis you can just rely on variations. You do need to be a solid have a solid bowling technique to succeed in any form of the game, and that's why cricket is how good it
Can you
as good as it
can you
is.
ever see a day where someone actually takes the approach they do in Test cricket and have like three slips and a golly in T20 and just try to actually get the wickets?
No, I don't think it's going to happen because if you saw some of those pitches in India, no, it does not seem around here. So unless it's like it does happen for a few overs, suppose if it's in
Yeah,
Mumbai or something like that, and it's really seeming around, but just like say baseball tactic, I don't think it's
yeah.
going to happen in T20 cricket because you're just going to get smacked for 350 then. Yeah. So,
Oh,
just as a pointer, what do we
yeah.
expect out of the next test between just who wins for you? The next test between India and New Zealand.
I think India win.
Yeah, I also think that
Yeah,
India is going to win, and it's going to be a one-sided game. And
yeah,
uh, I think that we have covered enough cricket on today's episode. And if you have got any questions, you can just go on to our handles at Adarsh and at Cricket Ref, and we'd be
yeah,
very happy to answer all of your questions. I think the way we
yeah,
structure our podcast is based on your questions, so we don't
yeah,
really need to. I'm not mentioning anyone's name here, but still, we'll answer all of your questions. And yeah,
yeah,
it's been a great time, and we uploaded a little late than usual because we had some problems, but the next episode will be out on Saturday as well, or Sunday. Sorry, it will be out on Sunday. So yeah, and we
yeah.
had a good time, and we'll see you next Sunday.